The first thing you should know is that nothing strange ever happens all at once. It starts with small things you explain away because you're tired or broke or just trying to get through another night. And that's exactly how it started for me when I took a night security job at a nearly forgotten medical office building on the edge of a small town in Ohio. The kind of place nobody talks about because nothing ever happens there and most people don't even know the building is still open. The hook that pulled me in was simple. The pay was decent, the nights were quiet, and the job description was honest in a boring way. Walk the floors every hour, monitor the cameras, log anything unusual, and make sure the elevators shut down properly after midnight, which sounded easy because after midnight, the building was supposed to be empty, except for me. On my first few nights, it really was empty, just buzzing lights, the hum of vending machines, and the soft echo of my own footsteps. And honestly, there was something calming about it, like the building was asleep, and I was just there to make sure it stayed that way. The elevator was old but reliable, one of those slow metal ones with mirrored walls and buttons worn smooth from decades of fingers. And every hour I rode it from the basement to the fourth floor and back down again. Same routine, same silence, same dull comfort of knowing exactly what would happen next. About 2 weeks in, I noticed something small, something I wouldn't have remembered if it hadn't repeated itself, which was that the elevator doors were already open when I reached the lobby, even though I hadn't called it and nobody else was supposed to be there. But old buildings do weird things and I didn't think much of it. Then it happened again the next night and the night after that, always around the same time, always when I was finishing my second round. And I started to get that subtle feeling you can't really explain, the one where your brain tells you everything is fine, but your body doesn't agree. One night, as I stepped into the elevator, I noticed the security camera inside had been tilted slightly downward, not much, just enough to frame faces instead of the doorway, and I remember frowning at it and thinking maintenance must have messed with it, even though nobody had been scheduled to come in weeks. I kept working. That's the part people don't like to admit, that you keep going even when something feels wrong, because stopping would mean admitting the feeling might be real. A few nights later, while watching the monitors, I saw movement in the elevator feed, and my stomach dropped because I wasn't in there and nobody else should have been. But when I rewound the footage, it showed me standing inside the elevator at 2:11 a.m., perfectly still, hands at my sides, staring straight up into the camera for almost 3 full minutes. I remember sitting back in my chair and laughing under my breath, telling myself the timestamp was wrong or the feed had glitched. But the laugh didn't feel right, because I knew exactly where I'd been at 2:11. I'd been at my desk, drinking bad coffee and scrolling my phone. The next night, I told myself I wouldn't check the footage again, because once you start looking for something, your mind will find it. But at 2:11, the elevator feed flickered on its own, and there I was again. Same posture, same stillness, except this time, my head slowly tilted, like I was studying the camera, like I knew I was being watched. I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall, and for the first time since taking the job, I felt genuinely afraid of the building itself, not of a person or a sound, but of the space I was inside. That was the night the elevator arrived behind me. I hadn't heard it moving, but I felt it, the shift in air, the quiet click of doors unlocking, and when I turned around, they were open, revealing the empty interior and my reflection staring back at me from every angle. For a moment, nothing happened, and I almost convinced myself it was done, that the worst part was over, until I noticed the reflection didn't move when I did, until I realized it was smiling when I wasn't. I backed away slowly, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears, and the doors closed on their own, the elevator descending without a sound, like it was taking something back down where it belonged. I called my supervisor right then, told him everything. Expected disbelief or jokes, but instead there was a long pause on the line before he told me, very quietly, that I wasn't the first night guard to report something like this, and that most of them didn't last more than a month. He sent maintenance the next morning. They shut the elevator down, replaced the camera, rewired the system, and for the next week, nothing happened. No strange footage, no unexplained openings, no feeling of being watched, and slowly, against my better judgment, I started to relax again. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I finished my shifts without incident, started thinking about asking for more hours, maybe even saving enough to quit security altogether, And that's when I realized something else had stopped too. The elevator never opened by itself anymore. It stayed shut. It stayed quiet. And for the first time since taking the job, I felt like the building was finally empty. I quit a month later for unrelated reasons, got a daytime job, moved on with my life, and nothing followed me home. No dreams, no shadows, no strange reflections. And if this story ended there, I probably wouldn't be telling it. But last week I ran into my old supervisor at a gas station, and as we talked, he casually mentioned that the elevator had been removed entirely, sealed behind concrete, because it kept activating even after it was disconnected. I asked him what the cameras showed. He said, "Nothing, just an empty elevator." And honestly, that's the part that lets me sleep at night, knowing that whatever it was never left the building, that it stayed exactly where it belonged, and that, at least in the end, everything really is fine. If you stayed till the end, you're probably someone who enjoys stories that feel uncomfortably real. So go ahead and like the video and subscribe, not out of habit, but because when stories like this show up, you'll want to be here.